All right, you're live.
All right, welcome everyone to our DPS Celebrations live event for this evening. We are welcoming our DPS Alumni Connections, and tonight's title is called Building Bridges as Women. So we're super excited to have some alumni with us. But before we begin today, I want to introduce our committee members. We have Melissa Perez, myself. Our sign language interpreter is here, so let me pause for just a moment. Mr. Yerby, can you please put Miss Williams on the screen so that she can translate for us? Thank you so much. Welcome, Miss Williams. Let me get back to our committee members. We've got Dr. Michelle Hicks, Dr. Melissa Watson, and I know that's a lot of spelling, Miss Williams, sorry. Dr. Bullock, Dr. Idahor, Mr. Geraldo, Miss Cotton, Miss Super Edwards, Miss Palmer, Mr. Friedman, Miss Reyesam, and Miss Dupree. So our committee members make up a variety of our departments here within Durham Public Schools, and you will see lots of different faces joining us throughout the year as we celebrate different celebrations. And I especially want to say thank you to our American Sign Language interpreting team from Durham Public Schools. This evening we have joining us Rachel Williams, who is predominantly located at Jordan High School. And we do have Spanish translation this evening as well. Ms. Flowers, are you going to be doing the Spanish translating?
Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to be moderating this evening.
All right, so moderating. I am not entirely sure who is joining us for the Spanish side, but somebody will be because we have a Spanish link that we will put available at the bottom of our screen so that our Spanish-speaking families can join us on the Spanish side. And all of our DPS Celebrations websites features located at celebrate.dpsnc.net is in response to our DPS student population. So we wanted to use this as an opportunity to highlight awareness and as an opportunity to educate people in our community, whether that be our students, our families, or our community members, about the different cultural celebrations that we celebrate and little differences about ourselves. And everything is available in English and in Spanish. We do have an e-library collection that is available as well that our media coordinators have curated. So these can be used in the classroom or families can use them at home. And without further ado, I'd like to get to the meat of tonight's session and introduce Dr. Idahor. Dr. Idahor is with our Equity Affairs Department. Dr. Idahor, can we bring you to the front of the screen? All right, there she is. So Dr. Idahor is fairly new to DPS. She joined us in the midst of the pandemic, has been a welcome addition. And Dr. Idahor is responsible for finding the fabulous set of panelists that we have for this evening. So I'm going to let her introduce our moderator and our panelists for this evening.
Thank you so much, Ms. Stevens. And again, good evening and welcome. Those of you who are joining today, thank you for being here. To our panelists, you all are in for a treat from our DPS alum this evening. So to get straight to it, we have an amazing conversation today that'll be moderated by Ms. Tanita Flowers, who is a part of our Durham Public Schools community and serves as a community liaison and Spanish interpreter, and is also a Riverside alum. We also have Amira Carter, who is currently a second-year Doctor of Pharmacy student, Hillside alum, and then we have Lauren Futrell, who's a senior at City of Medicine Academy. Later on, we're going to have Vanessa Canuta, who serves as a staff attorney at the United States Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit, who will join us in the pre-recording a little later. And she is a Jordan alum. So while you are here, feel free to rep your school, rep your area, and have a good time in the conversation and in the chat today. Ms. Flowers, I'm going to yield to you. Thank you all for being here.
And thank you so much, Dr. Idaho, for the invitation. It is such a pleasure to be surrounded by so many great queens, ladies. It's a blessing, and I'm very humbled to have the chance to speak with you tonight. My name is Tanita Flowers, and like Dr. Idaho said, I am one of the community liaisons and Spanish interpreters for Durham Public Schools. But I am the third graduating class, well, part of the third graduating class of Riverside High School. Um, Back then, Durham was completely different. I was a part of that transition from city schools and county schools that merged into Durham public schools. Um, and so there was a lot of transition that happened at that time. There were a lot of new things happening in our city back then. But before we go on a little bit more, ladies, I just want to take the opportunity, just like I'm sharing, for you to share. And I'm going to go with right now our youngest alumnus, Lauren. If you could go ahead and just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Lauren Futrell. As you know, I am a senior at City Medicine Academy. I'm graduating May 26th. I'm almost there. A little nervous, but I'm excited. I am currently on the student improvement team for my school, and that is where I work with the principal and other teachers and staff at my school, and we kind of communicate and strategize and work on ways to better our CMA community once I leave. And then I'm also the Student Government Association Vice President. So I'm planning a lot of behind the scenes of things that seniors are going to do, like prom and other things like that. I'm also a student ambassador. So I worked on getting students here and letting them come to CMA.
Awesome, awesome. And so now I'm going to go ahead and slide over to Miss Carter. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Amira Carter. I have to start off by acknowledging my parents. They currently work for Durham Public Schools. My mother is, yes, my mother is Mrs. Rita Carter. She's an instructional assistant for kindergarten at Pearsontown Elementary School. And my father is Mr. James Carter, and he's an assistant principal for the 6th grade at Githens Middle School. So we definitely love Durham Public Schools. As mentioned, I graduated from Hillside a while ago, back in 2009, and I've taken a scenic route to get to pharmacy school. I'm in my 2nd year, and I'll be graduating in 2024. I have a background in research. I conducted research at Duke University upon graduating from undergrad, and I have my master's in physiology from NC State. And now being at Campbell, I've seen a lot of different walks of life. So I would love to talk to everyone a bit more about some of those experiences and how it's okay to take that scenic route.
Well, let's go ahead and get to it. So, what led you into what you're desiring to do right now, and why is it important to you?
Yes. So when I graduated from undergrad, a lot of people say they already know what they want to do, whether they truly mean it or not. I personally didn't know.
I
And
didn't
so,
either.
right. So I had to keep moving forward, though, definitely. And I talked with my peers. So I networked and I was able to get that job at conducting breast cancer research at Duke. And that was a transient program. It was actually a mentor program, a bridge. And after those 2 years, I still didn't know if I really wanted to go to medical school. I told everyone all throughout grade school from DPS that I wanted to be a medical doctor. I still wasn't feeling it at the time, so I decided to pursue a master's degree. And towards the end of that, I wanted to get back into the medical field and just get a part time job for my last semester there. And I recalled that my mother had a background in pharmacy. So that inspired me to start my part time job at CVS Pharmacy. I worked there for about 2 years. And during that second year, I finally realized, okay, Amira, you don't want to be around too many patients. If they're in pain and awake, you sort of faint. So that's that physiological response. And then I thought about a PhD program. No offense to those out there that have it. But, thinking about that funding, having to find the funding for your research and everything, it sort of gave me a headache. So I had to go with pharmacy. I was like, wow, I can focus on medicine, science, math. I can actually apply my master's. This was just like the perfect option. And the most human contact we have is, maybe administering a vaccine, checking your blood sugar, something of that nature. But, things that don't make me feel like fainting. So that's like a quick summary of how I got there.
Okay, no, that sounds like a wonderful journey. And so, Lauren, you were saying that you are participating in a lot of activities right now, serving in student government, also on the school's improvement committee. Why? Well, tell me, do you think that that is going to prepare you for your career path, and what will that be in the future?
Yes, I 1000% think that's going to help me in my career path, because my big goal, because I mean I'm kind of on the opposite of you, Amira. I kind of know what I want to do, but of course things change, and I've heard that a lot. But my big goal is either to be a neurosurgeon or some type of neurologist or something like that. And so I know with that comes talking and communicating and, like you said, networking and working with people. And I know that being on the SGA and the student improvement team, that I'm working to prepare others who are behind me, underclassmen. And so I know that's very influential. And I think that will help me prepare in the future, with college and how my journey is and how I get to be and how I go to my career. And so being on the SGA and working with staff and everything like that, I'm able to push myself a little bit, because I do get nervous when talking around people. And so I know that being able to network and work with my principal and other staff members and teachers, that I'm preparing myself in the future for when I have to work on a team and be a leader in my partnership, and whenever I succeed in becoming a neurosurgeon, hopefully.
Oh, and that sounds great. Lauren, like you, I also used to serve on student government. I was student body secretary when I was at Riverside. And
Yes,
I was
yes.
also involved in a lot of student activities at school. Once I got to college, I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, but life, like you said, Amir, you enjoy the journey. You take the journey, and my journey kind of shifted, and the way that it shifted was it threw me in the middle of a situation where I had to decide to change my major and readjust myself. And one of the things I had to do to readjust myself was I went to Mexico. And that is where I learned Spanish. Yes.
Yes,
And
I was
amazing.
going to ask.
yes. So I never knew at that time that that one slight change in my life, and that was having issues with passing the praxis to become a teacher, would kind of change my scope of what I wanted to do. And I ended up in Mexico and I learned Spanish. And then that brought me back to something completely different that I had to open myself up to. So that broadened my experiences. So, right now, Lauren, based off of your current experiences and knowledge and the current climate that's happening here in Durham, what do our youth need? Especially, what do the girls in Durham, our Durham girls of color, need?
Yes, I think there's a number of things, but I think the important things to me, I think because of COVID, recently there's been less communication in school and out of school, and I think one of the things that's really important is mental health. And I think for Black women and youth in Durham, we have to focus, and we have to focus on joining instead of separating each other and being apart from each other, and just having a safe space to talk and communicate. And I think that's something that is lacking in Durham right now, and even in schools. I think we just need to have an opportunity for women to speak their mind and feel like they're comfortable sharing out, and any situation that they may be happening at home or at school. And I just think we need to build that community, and just have a safe space, and even an opportunity to be mentored and to be guided. How we're talking like this should be an opportunity for every school, every Black woman and youth, to be able to talk about how they're feeling, because things are hard right now. Things are hard, and it's been like that for a while. And I think that's really, really important in order for us to all push each other to be the best that we can all be.
And Amir, I'm going to go ahead and pose that to you. What were your life experiences and your current knowledge regarding right now the current climate in Durham? What do our youth need?
Yeah, and I'm going to have to piggyback on Lauren's response. I feel that we are facing a lot of challenges now that we're becoming more integrated back into the classroom. And I'm sure that some of the reflections I have from being in pharmacy school are also appearing in, grade school levels as well. And so it just seems like we have the same expectations of our staff, of our students, of pre-pandemic times when we had that in-person um, knowledge base and instructional time. And now we know for certain that it's very important to have that in person so that you learn those social skills, so that you can have those bonding moments, so that you can improve your confidence. And Lauren's a senior, and just think about having to maneuver getting these leadership positions and having to get them from home. Like, you can't just go up to your friends and advocate for yourself and things of
Right.
that nature. So we are having to adjust. We're still expected to perform at that higher level and have all these great skills on our record and everything, but this causes a bit of a challenge. So I believe that might be one of the things we're facing in this climate.
Well, what you both just said regarding expectations and what should happen regarding, things that we do in school. Um, I know during the time when I was in school, the expectations, you not only went to school, but I grew up during a time where me and the majority of my friends, we were working. We are Gen Xers,
Yeah.
and Gen Xers, we came from a completely different time where we spent a lot of time at home, alone by ourselves, or we were with our friends. But now, um, I'm noticing with a lot of students, those social interaction things, they're still trying to get back into slowly, but the expectations, you're a senior, and you're having to think about, okay, well, how am I going to prepare for the test to get into school, and also have my commitments that I also need to do. But Miss Carter, describe for me, what was your experience like as a Durham public school student?
Oh, I had so many amazing experiences. I'm going to try not to be long winded.
Tell us some of your most memorable ones.
Some of my most memorable moments, I would say third grade at Pearsontown Elementary School. My teacher, Mrs. Moore, she had this competition for multiplication. Whoever got to all of their multiplication tables at I guess by the time you got to tens, you could be ranked as multiplication king or queen if you were like the first person to finish. And me being the youngest, I saw my older siblings could do it, so I went for it, and I ended up getting that award. And it sort of solidified my belief in myself and my academic intelligence and my gifts and things of that nature. And it sort of like shot off the rest of my academic career. In fifth grade, I loved Durham Public Schools. I didn't have too many challenges. However, I had a friend who had a few challenges in fifth grade, and she was able to choose like that one buddy from her class, and she ended up choosing me. So we were able to have these mentor sessions. We would meet, talk with counselors and things of that nature, but we had that safe space. And that's something that's invaluable, that in-person experience that you get with Durham Public Schools. And of course, one of my favorite highlights of being in Durham Public Schools was working within the dance department at Hillside. I was able to get some of these firsthand experiences riding on a airplane, different train route trips and things of that nature. And I would say maybe ninth grade, I had my first experience riding in a limo because I made like all A's. And at the time, I'm not sure if you all still do it, but you would ride in a limo from your high school to a superintendent luncheon. So that was like very memorable for me.
I'm not quite sure if they still have that. Maybe that's a suggestion we can provide Dr.
Yeah.
Mobanga and Open Administration to still
Mhm.
do if possible. So, Lauren, you as well, what are some of your most memorable and significant experiences? And also tell me some challenges that you faced.
I definitely have to say that my most memorable experiences was the first one was coming to DPS. So I didn't start in kindergarten. I started in second grade. My family moved here from California, and I went to Forest View Elementary. And I remember the first day of school, like the back of my hand. I was really, really nervous because I was like, all of these people, all the students, all the kids, they know each other. They know each other since they were little. I'm coming here as a second grader, like they don't know me. But I remember I had Miss McRaney as my second grade teacher. And I remember just the first day, it was such a welcoming experience. They were like, everyone, this is Lauren. And it was just so awesome to just meet and just feel part of a new community. And I ended up having lasting friendships all the way up until senior year. Although we're not all at the same school, we're still in contact. And we're like, remember that time in second grade, third grade, fifth grade? So it was just an awesome time. It was definitely a huge experience. Another experience that I had recently is I was able to be a TA for Miss Sonia Terry. She is the technology person at our school for the cybrary, and it was just awesome being able to work kind of behind the scenes. I was able to talk to my principal, staff members, and things like that. And it was kind of like if anyone wanted information, they would ask me about it. And I felt good. I was like, you need something? I got you. I got you for that. And so I just felt like really like a part of a team and a community because I was able to help out others. People were helping me, and how I first felt like kind of nervous joining DPS, but then I felt welcomed. And so that was definitely great experiences. As far as challenges, I don't know if I really have any challenges. Well, I guess sort of a challenge was recently we had our homecoming, but it wasn't really a homecoming because of COVID. But we did like this Halloween night. And it was kind of a challenge because there were so many moving parts and pieces. And so there were lots of times where people were getting frustrated with each other. And I was kind of like that middle person, I felt like, because I had friends from this group and over here and things like that. And so I was just like, okay, we have to focus on the bigger picture. We want this to be one of the best homecoming CMA has ever had before. And so it was kind of a challenge because I kind of had to push myself. I couldn't be like, okay, you're my friend, but you just did something wrong. So I kind of had to work with everyone, work outside, and just push the boundaries. But overall, I've had awesome, awesome experiences with DPS.
And Miss Carter, what were, if any, challenges that you faced while you were a student at DPS?
Yeah, I would say one of my biggest challenges, I don't know, it would definitely, I'm going to set the preference for this challenge. So
Okay.
it is based off of my perception. I'm
Okay.
realizing that you have to have like emotional intelligence when you think about situations. So at the time, whenever I had an educator in my life that I didn't feel, or like if I'm taking a class and I don't feel that the teacher cares that much about my education and everything. It might be that, they have a lot of other things going on, and it could just be my perception. But whenever I didn't feel that the teacher was there for me, really enthusiastic about learning, it made it even more difficult to apply myself in the class. I would always find a way, but like those were the most challenging classes. And I realized even if it's a course that I have no interest in, as long as I feel that connection with my educator, I'm able to perform exceptionally well. So those were like some of the largest challenges that I had. And leadership positions. Definitely
And
leadership positions.
and
Yes,
speaking of
I
leadership
agree.
positions, and the challenges, I have to agree with you. And it seems like things have not changed, and it's that connection that you have with your teachers.
Mhm,
And like I had said earlier before, I was a part of the students who were affected by that transition from city schools and county schools to Durham public schools. And one of the things was, during that time, it was the change of demographic. I went
mhm,
from being like one or two black kids in a classroom surrounded by predominantly white students to there was more of an integration at that time of other students that came from the city schools. And so one of the biggest challenges that I started to encounter for the first time was that connection, like you said, with some of the teachers. Um, and really feeling connected with them. But there was one teacher in particular who had transitioned from city schools into county schools. And I will never forget her because this woman actually changed my life. And her name was Miss LaWanda Lawson. And she was my very first Spanish teacher in
mhm,
Durham Public Schools. And even though I was facing some challenges in some of my other classes, because Miss Flowers was a little bit social, let's just say, I love talking, and now I get paid to talk to people within Durham Public Schools. And so one of the encouraging things that she taught me was, in order to like bridge things and pull things together, learn how to communicate with people. And she said, learn a language. And that was kind of the foundation of what kind of springboard me into wanting to reconsider in college taking on another language. So it was, how can I say, my strength that I found in my struggle,
mhm,
being encouraged by that teacher, and that was a wonderful thing. But looking back on my DPS days, I just also remember the times that I spent with my friends. Like you guys, you can see the picture behind me. This is actually our senior group photo. And I'll never forget that day.
mhm.
We were all excited. We ran outside on the football field, and we posed for that picture. And I was with one of my best friends. We're still friends to this day. So looking back on those days, and I kind of remember the innocence. And when I say innocence, we didn't have the internet. I mean, it did, but it's not like it
Yeah.
is now. But looking back, I think I would have taken my time and kind of absorbed and cherished the things that were going on around me and not being in such a rush to move on to college. It's like, I have to get the SATs, I have to pay my deposits for school, I have to find my roommate. Now I got to go out and buy the things for my dorm room. I was just in a rush that I didn't appreciate the time that I had. But looking back on your days as a DPS student, what is one thing that you would want to do differently or experience again? Miss Carter, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Mhm. I would have to say the end of my high school career. Finally, all this work that I've been putting in, I was proving that you can have a public education.
Mhm.
And, graduating from Hillside at the end of my senior year, I found out that I was getting a full scholarship for undergrad. And it even came with like stipend and everything. Like it was amazing. And I was going to North Carolina A&T State University afterwards, but it was like all of the hard work that I put in, everything that my parents and my siblings and my community poured into me helped me get to this point. And it was just so beautiful to be able to tell people I came from Durham Public Schools and I was able to get to this place in life. And, it just made everything come full circle. At the time, it seemed like, this is it, because you're in high school. But, then you continue to have other experiences that are just as exciting. But that moment was amazing. And I would love to experience it again.
And Miss Futrell, you're right there. You're on the cusp of making it out. Looking on what you're doing right now, what are some of the things you think, looking back, that you may have done a little bit differently?
I definitely have to agree with both of you. I definitely think that I have a lot of support And I could see that now, even though I don't know what college I'm going to, but we're still working on that. And I just have to say that my parents' support, my teacher support, my staff support, I definitely think that's helped me along the way. And I agree with you, Miss Flowers. I wish during kind of like freshman year, I took things a little bit more slower. I think City Medicine is a smaller school, so it was a little bit more competitive. And so I was always worried about like leadership, like I have to get this position, I have to do this, I have to do this. But instead of doing that, I kind of taken a little bit more time to process. And I think um, I kind of wanted to get into sports. I stopped playing sports after freshman year, so I wish I would have kept doing that for the rest of my for the past last 3 years. Even with COVID, I know some things were still happening, so I definitely think wish I was a little bit more active in sports. And I slowed down a little bit more because I was really focused on leadership, and I'd noticed how that can hinder some relationships in school. So I wish I would have done a few things different.
And Miss Carter, also looking back, what were some of the things, you would have, and not to say they were incomplete, but some of the things you would have done in addition to kind of help you get a little bit further? I mean, you are, madam. I mean, your journey is quite, it's quite a story. So, are there other things that you would have done in DPS or would have liked to have received in DPS to kind of help you get a little bit further? I mean, scholarships,
Mhm.
that in itself is awesome.
Yes.
So, is there anything else that you think that you would have done?
Yes. Now that I'm a bit older, I'm seeing the value in giving back to the community. And I feel like you get certain opportunities throughout your matriculation to do a few community volunteering experiences here and there. And definitely by the time you get to that senior year, you have to get a certain amount to graduate. So it's sort of like, forced upon you. But I wish that I had gotten a bit more involved and that there were a lot more opportunities, maybe even local opportunities, so that more students could get involved, so that I could get involved a bit more instead of just trying to get those credits to graduate. Because now I'm seeing the value of giving back and volunteering your time and helping those in need.
And so, just looking at that, what is a piece of advice that you would share with some of our younger DPS students, our current students,
Mhm.
and just young ladies in general?
Yeah, I would just say give yourself the gift of believing in yourself. It sort of starts there. Once you truly begin to believe in yourself, it opens up the door to many different opportunities. If you have a dream, nurture it. And if you don't know how to go about that dream, there are so many people out there like myself and like others who want to help you figure out how to get to that next level. Even the parents that might be tuning in, like I have a classmate that's in her 50s, so it's never too late to go for your dreams. So just staying encouraged throughout life and just trying not to fit into that box, and just it all sort of starts with believing in yourself, because the world can believe in you as much as you want, but it gets challenging as you continue to pursue your dreams. So definitely gift yourself with being able to believe in yourself.
I'm gonna have to snap on that because that is wonderful. And Lauren, what is some advice that you would also offer to young women?
I'd have to say that I'm agreeing with Amira that confidence is key, even with myself. And I also have to say that it is important to speak up for yourself. That's something that I am still learning to do and lacking a little bit because I'm more of a quiet person. I'm kind of in my shell until I really burst. And then you're like, wow, this is Lauren. So I think that they're like, okay. One thing that I'd say is definitely speaking up for yourself, because if not, who will?
Yes.
Don't be afraid to speak your mind, tell your truth, and speak up for others who may not be able to, because that's important in order to build communities. And especially with Black women and Black youth, and even youth in general, we are the future. We're the generations to come. So it's important to know what you want, know your worth, and know what you want to do and your dreams and things like that. And just speak up for what you want.
Oh wow, ladies, what you guys have said is so poignant. And it is so absolutely true. And it's, stand up for yourself, believe in who you are. And it's that self confidence. And, and more times when you begin to doubt who you are or you forget who you are, it's very encouraging to remember, number one, where you've come from. Number two, and you're focused on where you want to go, but also being able to uplift and encourage and then give back, because giving also is encouraging and it uplifts people and it motivates you as well. So, ladies, as our young, beautiful queens from Durham Public Schools, I have to say your words are uplifting. Even, for me, they call us old heads, but I'm not going to claim that, okay? Because I'm not old at all. You can just call me auntie though. But just but just listening to you guys, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of both of your journeys. And one is just beginning, and the other one is in the middle. And just to see, I'm going to be so happy to see where you guys land. Also, I'm going to encourage you to still be active within Durham Public Schools, and continue to mentor our students and come back and speak. To everyone, but thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak with us and to serve on our panel this evening. It has been a joy. It has been uplifting. Ladies, do you have any final words to say before we go ahead and turn it back over? Lauren?
Um, just thank you all so much. Being a part of DPS has really created the person I am today. I mean, starting in second grade and to where I am now, it's been such a wonderful and beautiful journey that I think comes with once in a lifetime. And so from here on out, I always remember DPS and Dr. Mabanga and all my teachers and everything. I'll be like, I went to DPS. I went to Durham Public Schools. So it's definitely exciting. My next steps, I'll make sure to let you all know where I end up. So just thank you all so much.
And keep us posted. And Amira, some parting words?
Yes, I just wanted to also say thank you. I really appreciate being considered for this opportunity tonight. I love, sharing my story. I hope that it affects at least one person. That's always the dream. And I hope that I'll be able to help out more with Durham Public Schools moving forward. So thank you so much.
Oh, and again, thank you, ladies. And so in parting, I just have to say, I have seen the changes that have happened in Durham Public Schools. When there was a time back in the 80s, things were different, buildings were different. We didn't even have air conditioning at that time in the schools. I was a student at Merrickmore. And we had fans, and there were days where it just got too hot. To now, as an adult, I'm like, these schools are air conditioned, and and it's wonderful. But to also know that we have so many students who started in our elementary schools, gone to our middle schools, attended our high schools, and graduated. You guys have done each grade level, and then to see you exceeding in life and carrying on with your journey, I have to clap for you and say thank you. I really appreciate your time this evening. And I would also like to thank the Department of Equity Affairs for inviting me to participate, and also collaborate with these two beautiful young ladies on this panel this evening. And also DPS Celebrates. Thank you very much, because this is a wonderful opportunity to share our stories with the Durham community. And right now, Kelly, I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Flowers. And Amira and Lauren, I can only echo, my words have been taken out of my mouth. You ladies spoke with such eloquence and really displayed what we want to see coming out of Durham Public Schools. And I know you both said you wished you had maybe done some more to give back. You're doing that today, and we love it. And we do. We want to see more of you. So please make sure that you are following DPS Celebrates and our DPS Equity Affairs Department, because we're hoping to have more events just like this so that we can learn about each other, from each other. We can uplift the great things happening in our community. And I loved the message that you both shared today. We do have another alumni member who unfortunately was unable to join us live. So Dr. Idahor pre-recorded with her. So Dr. Idahor, would you like to hop on briefly and introduce our other special guest?
Sure. And before I do that, I just want to again echo the sentiments that have been shared. You all did an amazing job. Thank you, Ms. Flowers, for moderating such a powerful conversation, such a necessary conversation. When we think about, the topic of today's live stream, building bridges, you all are definitely doing that in your own way. And it's so amazing. It's beautiful to see that right in front of us live, as you all engage in conversation and you're transparent about your experiences. And you spoke so much on the pride that you have as a DPS alum and current student and employee and community member. And so just being able to hear that and share that with us has been absolutely amazing. And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. So as Ms. Stevens mentioned before, we do have Vanessa Canuta, who was not able to join, but she wanted to make sure that I shared this fun fact. So I'm going to do that before we go into the pre-recording. So as a student, and again, we're talking about the great experiences that are offered as a part of the DPS, as a part of DPS. Being a student at Shepherd, she actually got a chance to ask President Obama a question as a part of a Nickelodeon special.
Wow.
So she was gonna try to find the clip and everything, but in terms of memorable experiences, everything from, planning events and serving on leadership committees to, riding in limos, those are the experiences that we want to have for our students. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and go to the recording, and thank you all for tuning in. All right, so Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us today for our DPS Women's Her Story Month. We're so glad to have you. DPS celebrates Women's Her Story Month, and we are highlighting the multiple and diverse experiences of women in Durham who are doing dynamic things within our community and abroad. And so thank you so much for being here. Let's just get straight to it. So I'll quickly introduce myself. I am Dr. Vanessa Canuta. I serve as the Student Engagement and Opportunity Coordinator with the Office of Equity Affairs. And so I'm going to yield to you to introduce yourself and then also tell us what led you to the work that you're doing. Tell us a little bit more about your experience in Durham and why it's important to you.
Of course. So my name's Vanessa Canuta. I'm currently living in St. Louis, Missouri, but I grew up in Durham, North Carolina. So I was very familiar with DPS as I grew up through that system, and I'm currently a staff attorney at the United States Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit. And so as an attorney, DPS actually is what inspired me to want to become an attorney. At a young age, I went to Shepherd Middle School, and I had the chance to join a class that essentially Shepherd has like a mock courtroom. And so that was the first time in 6th grade where I was like, oh, wow, this is really, like, you just feel that presence when you're stepping into a room like that. And so I remember my teacher from 6th grade to 8th grade just gave me the opportunity to do sort of mock trials and be a prosecutor, then a defense, then a jury member, and actually argue in front of like a judge at the time. And so it was just a great experience and where I learned the importance of being an advocate. And so that's what that inspired me to want to become an attorney. And I followed through with it as I am an attorney now, but it stemmed from that very early age in 6th grade. And actually a fun fact is I had that in 6th grade, I was given a small little book. It still sits in my office now of the United States Constitution. And I kept it from the day it was given to me in 6th grade. And I still have it now. So that was what really inspired me to want to be an attorney. But beyond that, also just being Latina and not having sort of like growing up, I did not feel like I had someone who looked like me be an attorney, who sort of felt like there was a lot of gaps between the immigrant community, the Spanish-speaking community, to be able to access justice, to access courtrooms. And so I wanted to become an attorney to give back to my community and advocate with my community in that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you made some really good points. When we think about equity, we think about equity to resources and, access to resources and access to experiences. But I love how you mentioned access to justice and the importance of representation. And so thank you so much for sharing that. So based on your experience and the knowledge of the current climate in Durham, what do you think Durham youth need? So thinking about the things that you received as a DPS student, what are some things that you feel students need today?
I think one of the biggest things that students need is probably just to feel seen and heard. And sort of, I think what I really appreciated growing up was having a mentor. And I think youth always need mentors, especially with Durham's climate changing and who is in leadership positions now, and sort of being able to have those leaders come back and say, how did I get here? You can do this too. Just offering so much mentorship so that they feel seen. As Durham has been shifting, the population has been shifting, who are now teachers, who are now mayors, whatever that situation may be, and having them give back in that way where youth feel like they can access those positions, where they don't feel so unattainable and stuff like that. I think just having those groundwork of youth needing mentors, I think it just paves such a huge way to be like, I can do that. I can do that. They were giving that back, and just giving that feedback and encouragement to young children, it just makes a huge impact, I think.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. You think about mentorship. Do you have any mentors that while you were a DPS student that you still remember today? And then what was that experience like for you? And if you didn't have a mentor, I guess thinking about, how that has led you or informed the work that you do now.
Yeah, I think I had mentors throughout. I know my middle school teacher, Miss Manning, and my newspaper teacher, Miss Combs, really just guided me while I was in their presence. But beyond that, just gave me lifelong advice. And that just really stayed with me. Like, don't be afraid to do something, and don't be, just because you might be the first at something, to let that stop you. And those sort of guidelines really helped me in this profession, which is pretty male dominated, to not be so afraid to enter those spaces that may be so new. And so I might be the only one in the room who looks like me, but to not shy away from that. And I think that really inspired me to want to do that in turn for new DPS students and the new generation that wants to come forward to sort of give that back, because I did not have a mentor who looked like me growing up. And so sort of bridging still that gap.
You must have access to our notes, because the whole title of this series, this particular session, or this particular live stream, is Building Bridges, right? Building bridges as women. And so I think that a key part of that is mentorship. And so to hear that, from not having a mentor that looked like you, how that has led you in your work today is absolutely wonderful. And it sounds like it's had a major impact on the work that you do now. So thank you for sharing that. So thinking about your experiences, not only as a woman of color in a male-dominated space, think back to your experience as a DPS student. What are some of your most memorable experiences? And then what are some challenges that you faced? And does that impact you in any way now?
Yeah, I think one of the most memorable experiences was in Jordan High School. When I was in high school, I had the chance to be on the newspaper staff. And that just had such a profound impact on me, because I saw my name author a piece or several pieces, and just the confidence that it built in my writing and my willingness to sort of be vulnerable and share my writing with the school. It just made so much of an impact on me, and feeling like I can do this. I had never even thought about it, but I was like, let me just try this. And going through that editing process, which can be scary. Someone can really tear apart your work, but it's such an informative experience, and you learn so much from it. And just being able to do that and author those pieces just was probably one of the greatest experiences, because it built so much confidence within me. And then one of the challenges that I remember, and it stayed with me for a while, was being afraid to ask questions. I think sometimes being a few, like taking certain classes, maybe I was the only woman of color being in that class. And so I was sort of shy away from asking questions, because I was so afraid of how I would be perceived by my classmates. And sort of maybe that constrained myself a little bit. And that stayed with me when I went to law school. I sort of tried to sort of change that narrative that I had once had, and be like, no, it's okay. It's a right. You have a right to be here, and asking those questions and not being afraid to do that. But I remember being so afraid of that at a young age, and how I would come off, and letting those fears go as I got older.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You mentioned a lot of things, and if you'll bear with me for a moment, I would like to sort of explore that a little bit with you. But you mentioned imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You mentioned glass ceilings. How did you overcome that?
I think I overcame that really through my support system, like my family just really helped like ground me and say, you know, you can do this. Just because you may look different, you have a different background, especially being a first generation student, it can be very scary to enter that space. But just knowing that I had their support and knowing that, like, they always reminded me, it was just like, you have a right to be here and don't shy away from that. Your story may look different, but that doesn't make you any less like owning that space. And so just growing up and repeating those things in my head as I was entering these spaces really helped. And knowing that I had my family's support through it all, just it made all the difference.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And, you know, being a woman of color and being in the law space, or just being the first, right? What has that been like for you? And I guess thinking about what you would tell other women of color who are interested in pursuing this profession, or pursuing higher ed or going into law, what are some things that you would have to share with them?
I think the first thing I would say is to give yourself grace. I think being the first at something, I know I did this, I put a lot of pressure on myself to not fail, to not make mistakes. And sort of that pressure can consume you and be scary throughout an already scary process. And so I think what I would say is to give yourself grace, and it's okay to make mistakes, to learn from them, but it is okay to embrace them. We're not perfect and we're not expected to be. So I think holding and being, just giving yourself so much grace throughout this process. The legal profession can be a lot of different things. And so just being able to know yourself and know your values, but give yourself grace. And I think that will guide you through any space you want to enter, is be true to who you are authentically, and having that come across in the legal profession and higher ed and all those things, and just being able to just go back to give yourself grace. And I wish I would have told myself that younger, to just be like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's a part of life. And I think when you're the first at something, you hold on to not trying to make those mistakes, because you feel like you're not only representing, at least for myself, I did not feel like I was only representing myself. I was representing my family and my Spanish speaking community. It felt like a lot. And so just giving yourself that you are one person and you can do this, and sort of just holding yourself to that.
Awesome. That was really good. Thank you so much. All right. So we're getting close to the end. Now, I want us to go back down memory lane for a little bit, right? So thinking back, so of course, you had an opportunity to experience high school pre-COVID, right? So
right, yeah.
Thinking back to high school, your time as a DPS student, what is one thing that you would want to either do differently or you would want to experience all over again? And
I feel like I can do both. One thing that I would want to do differently would be, so I was afraid, a lot of my friends did dance in high school, and I was so afraid that I was going to be a terrible dancer that I didn't do it, but they enjoyed it so much. And I remember going to go support my friends at their dance concerts, and I wish that I would have done it, because it seems so much fun, and just to be in that space and just so much family. I wish I would have taken the opportunity to do that. And something versus that I would have loved to experience again was to be on the cross country and track team. That was probably a lot of my favorite experiences, being able to compete and also just learn about being a student athlete, how much it taught me about time management. Oh my goodness, I owe it all to that, knowing how constrained you were sometimes. But yeah, if I could experience competing against and just the thrill of all of that and being on a team, I would. It was such a great experience.
Awesome. And you sound like me. That's what I tell people all the time, is if I could go back and do it all over again, I would definitely do sports, just, it doesn't have to be competitive, but just to have a good time. And, I think being so focused on academics, I missed out on that piece, but I'm like you, I would definitely go back and do that all over again.
Yeah.
For sharing. So we're at the end. Thinking about this interview, thinking about where you are now, Vanessa, what are some last words that you would want to share with our DPS community? Because they're going to be watching. So one thing that you could tell students or teachers, parents, families, stakeholders who are just a part of our community, what would you say? What would you want to tell them?
I would tell them to, just to never be afraid to seek mentorship, whether that's within your teachers, within that's in community leaders, I think just never be afraid to ask. I think especially for students, if you see someone who's in a position, maybe not even in Durham or anywhere else in the country, that you're like, my goal would be to be in their position one day, to just reach out. The worst thing that they could say is no, maybe they're super busy, but the greatest thing that could come from that is you have a mentor, someone who's willing to share their experiences and guide you through so many obstacles that they may face. Because I know, speaking for myself personally, I love to just make anyone's life a little bit easier based on what I learned. I love to do that. And I know other people in Durham love to do that as well. And so just to reach out and not be afraid to open those doors for students and also mentors, to just give back as much as you can, because the next generation is amazing. And if we can just make their life a little bit easier from the lessons we've learned, it makes all the difference, I think.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. The next generation is amazing. And I am hopeful. And I'm so glad to hear that you are too. And I think you being here with us today it's very much aligned with the whole purpose of this, of these series of DPS Celebrates. It's to not only amplify the voices of the people within the Durham community or the DPS community, but to also highlight people who are doing wonderful things, who are impacting the spaces that they're in significant ways. And so thank you so much, Vanessa, for being here with us today, for being a part of the bridge, right? As we are building this bridge to get people to a space where everyone is achieving and everyone is successful as it pertains to them, as far as what it looks like for them, for being a part of that bridge, for even being here today, serving as a mentor, even virtually, right? You're a mentor for people who are going to be watching, and they're going to take these nuggets that you've shared and apply it to their lives. So even virtually, all the way in another time zone, you're still mentoring. And that's exactly what we hope that your experience in Durham and being a part of DPS, we hope that it would inspire that type of work. And so thank you so much, Vanessa, for being with us. Please stay connected.
Of course, yes.
Mentorship. So we're going to be reaching out. And
yes, please do. I'm so happy.
Put it out there.
In Durham anytime.
Awesome. And thank you so much. You have put it out there that you are willing to serve. And so again, we thank you for your willingness. Thank you for your time. And that's all I have. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure to meet you and just to give me this opportunity. I absolutely enjoyed it.
No, thank you. Take care.
Okay.
Wow, Dr. Idahor, I think I need to encourage you to help out with every single session, because you found some very powerful young women this evening to share about their experiences in Durham Public Schools, what they're doing now, and what they're going to continue to give back to our community. And they are inspiring so many young women. I know the goal is in DPS, but I think you all inspired women across the country and across the world, because we have people that follow us all over the world. So thank you, ladies. Thank you. This is wonderful. So next week, we continue our story, which is her story for Women's History Month. But in Durham Public Schools, we don't believe that Black history can be contained in the 28 days in February. So we continue this all throughout February and March. So next week, join us where we are going to talk to DPS educators, and we're going to raise voices to shatter ceilings. So this week we had alumni. So ladies, once again, thank you for joining us. And next week we are going to have some DPS educators speak. So we're going to flip the discussion and have a different viewpoint. So ladies, any final thoughts or anything to say before we close out for this evening?
I just kind of want to piggyback on what all of the ladies said about mentorship. I know a lot of the mentorship and guidance that I received from a lot of teachers and members of the community also helped inspire me. I do need to shout out one of my mentors who is still a mentor for me, and she was as well back in high school, and that is Miss Denise Rosen. Shout out to Community Ed. And Miss Rosen, thank you so much for your guidance and your leadership. It has helped and guided and molded me into the woman that I am today. So blessings and thank you very much.
All right. Well, if there's no other parting thoughts, I encourage our audience, please join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as DPS Celebrates. Also, please follow Durham Public Schools. Ladies that are our alumni, please follow us. We would love to have you come back. And Lauren, I can't wait to see you walk across that stage because my office is one of the offices that supports. And I typically am at every graduation, so I can't wait to see you walk across that stage because I know you're only moments away. And
Yes,
it's
thank you so
only the
much.
first stage for you that you are going to walk across.
Yes. Thank you so much. And thank you all for this opportunity.
You are welcome. You are welcome. And ladies, enjoy your evening. And to the rest of our audience, thank you for joining us. And please tune in next week, same day, same time, Monday at 6 p.m.